Hey everyone! So as some of you may already know, the last 2-3 years I've been working on this Lisp implementation written in JavaScript for both Node or the browser called Piglet. And I've in particular the last week or so been tinkering away the few hours I've found to play with this stuff on a bit of a playground app where people can basically try Piglet out, kind of see what it does, explore some of the built-in library. And so I figured it'd be fun to do a little video as I continue on this thing, sort of like I figured out most of the boilerplate of the app now, so I think we can actually get into some of the more interesting stuff, and in the meanwhile, talk a little bit about Piglet. So I'm going to make myself a little smaller. And show you folks how the workflow is, how I kind of do this. So we are using Emacs, and in Emacs in particular, so I've installed the Piglet packages for Emacs, which give me a command pdp start server. So I will start the pdp server. It listens by default on port 17017. And that means that any Piglet runtime, either from Node or the browser, can connect to my editor and I can start evaluating code. Now this Piglet playground, you can find it on GitHub under Piglet Lang, the organization, with some instructions there as well. It's all a little bare bones, writing a language tooling ecosystem from scratch is a lot of work, and so we kind of have to make choices to keep things minimal and practical so that we can actually make progress and have stuff to show. So the project here, it's a JavaScript project right now. We still rely on package.json for any like npm dependencies. We also have a package pig where we define a URI, which is the name of this package, paths where source code lives, and then any dependencies with their local alias. So we're going to then use this contrib as a prefix to import modules from this contrib package. And contrib is just a place where I've been pushing a couple of useful modules which may or may not become part of the Piglet standard library itself. We'll kind of see about that. And then we declare like a main namespace for the front end, but we'll talk maybe more about that later. I have some public assets here, which just get served, in particular the font that I'm using. And then here we have a couple modules. In particular, we have backend and front end. So our backend which runs on Node, and front end which loads in the browser, and then a couple packages that we're using or modules that we're using where some other bits and bobs of our code live. So I am right now, so there's kind of two right now, like there's two ways I run this. Generally, especially if you're working on Node, so you not shown, but basically like you start with installing Piglet Lang. This gives you two commands, pig, which is sort of like a modern, more full-featured thing where you have a bunch of sub-commands, and then Piglet, which is the older one. It's a bit more bare bones, but the nice thing about Piglet is that you can use it in shebangs. So let's say I do, test.pig, and I say shebang, user bin env piglet, print line hello from piglet. Let's maybe actually show that it also computes something. EUF, I should, and this is testing my luck here. Okay. In theory, that works. I knew I was testing my luck with that. Basically, what should work though is, so basically here with pig, you have a couple options. Pig REPL, you know, so you can just run stuff in a REPL. Pig run, which we'll use for the backend. So I can say pig run backend. Now my backend itself uses the CLI module to offer a bit of a command line interface. So here we then have to say start, and then I'm going to pass it a port. I need to double dash here. I mean, it actually makes more sense to put it here, I guess, because otherwise the pig command will eat these dash flags. Something we need to fix perhaps. So if I run this on port 4501, yeah, I just added that. So let's do that here. Yeah, I just switched from using like /piglet contrib to a node modules location, because I just deployed this on playground.pigletlang.org, and had to add an extra dependency here because of that. So okay, let's try that again. Pig run. Okay, so we're running. Let's reload that here. Yeah, and right now it only does a couple things. Basically, there's a text area here. You can put code in here. If you do Control Enter, it runs that code and inserts the results here. Right now it inserts each one at the top, so it's kind of reversed. Maybe we want to actually change that to be at the bottom and to have it auto scroll. And then what I've been working on here, I mean, this is still unstyled, but basically this is a tree widget where you see your packages. So right now we're using like the main Piglet package. We're using this Piglet contrib package. We really only just use one module from that, which is styled component. From the Piglet, basically the standard library, we use the lang module, which contains all kinds of like basically everything you expect from sort of a core namespace. And then we have a DOM module, which basically allows us to render hiccup forms to like DOM elements and do some manipulation on them. We'll see that as we work on the front end. CSS, so we can use sort of, Piglet forms to turn them and render CSS. And then a string library with various string helpers. Now, basically, like right now, just clicking on these things expands and collapses them. What I actually want is that there's like a plus like minus expand collapse thingy at the start here, and that clicking on the module name itself brings up that module's code up here. So let's see if we can make that happen. Now we'll say, so this right now, so I'm running my backend. Yeah, I have two active connections here, which are basically the two tabs that I have open. Oh yeah, because we're also still shipping the PDP client with this one. So yeah, now I have one active connections. If I close this, then I have 0 active connections. So if I reopen this, one active connections, and you'll see that I can do JS alert, hello. So we're connected here, we can evaluate stuff. The reason that this works is that here you'll see that like my index page, I'm basically loading Piglet itself, in particular a main namespace, which is specific for the browser, which then loads the compiler and everything, and also looks for any scripts of type Piglet. And then basically there, I say load package self. This is going to load the package pig of my Piglet Playground package so that it knows where to find sources and everything. And then I can require, or or actually, I mean, require is still there as an alias, but we now call that import to kind of align ourselves with JavaScript and ES6 stuff. So we load our front end, we load the PDP client, and we connect to a WebSocket that is basically running inside Emacs. If I'm working on the back end, then right now what I do is I comment these two things out, and I say pig PDP here. So now this runs Node. Node connects to my Emacs. I can evaluate this here, start a server again, and now when I reload this, I have one active connection, which is just the Node process. And now I can work on the back end. But we actually want to work on the front end, so I'm gonna undo that. Gonna run it like this so that we don't get the PDP connection from Node, we just get it from the browser. Okay. Yeah, the tree widget. So, okay, there's a couple things going on here. I'm using this defc macro, although these are actually like still completely unstyled, so it doesn't maybe make sense why I'm using this here. See if I have a better example. Yeah, so for instance here, if you're familiar with the ornament library for Clojure and ClojureScript, it's a very similar idea. Syntax is a tiny bit different. Basically, you have a function tail here, which is basically your render function. And here, none of these really take input, but they could. And then you have CSS here. And what this will do, so this is a header tag, but because this is called header, this is actually also going to add, so when this actually renders, and I guess I can just show this here. Yeah, so for your header class header, or main class main section, so that main section comes from here. So basically, like what this macro is going to do is automatically add a class to this top level element. And then these styles will get rendered as being scoped to that class. So if I go here to style CSS, you see I have like a main section, like basically these three rules are the result of rendering this stuff. And in my backend, you see I have a get styles where I have some global styles and then gather up all the styles from this styled component. Yeah, I'm not connected to the backend now. If I do this and load this, yeah, you see like this then gets rendered as CSS. So that's kind of how that works. So my tree widget, it's basically a bunch of nested ULLIs. I'm using this ARIA expanded attribute to check if the subtree is open or not, and then just hiding the ones that are not. Actually, I think I should be able to have this style. Actually, let's maybe put it on the tree at least, rather than just have it as a global style. See if that still works. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to make this a fairly generic tree widget. And so if you look at where I'm using this in the front end, I'm basically saying here append tree widget tree, and I'm passing it the module registry. So the module registry is sort of a global singleton where Piglet keeps a tree of the packages, modules, and vars that are currently loaded in the system. So I'm giving it like that raw module registry value, but then passing in basically these callbacks that allow the tree widget to get the information it needs. And so there's two functions here. One function which basically, given a value, returns the children that need to go underneath a subtree. And then node, which basically returns this dict. We call them dicts in Piglet, with a number of keys. So the label, whether it's a leaf node, so whether it can have children or not, whether it has children or not is a separate question, but whether it can have children, and whether it's by default expanded or not. And so there's a few classes here, a few types. Module registry is not exposed as a var, but I'm just basically getting it from that local, from that global singleton. But the other ones like package, you know, and you can look at these, right? Like, so basically you get to see like these class definitions. So we have packages, modules, and vars, and we're using some interop to get their children, and so that's how the tree component can sort of like render these, but also still keep a reference to the original object, which is nice because then you can pass it into callbacks and work with the original value. Okay, so let's see here. So this is the check. Yeah, okay, so this is basically taking the current REI expanded value and flipping it. That's my current onClick handler. Let's actually let's do a similar thing here. So I'm gonna actually add two spans here. One with a plus, and one with a minus. And I'm gonna add on click handlers to these. Here we can actually just say, so are you expanded true? And then now you might notice I'm not using React or anything like this. We're just using this Piglet DOM, which lets us convert data like this into browser DOM elements. So it does, you know, document create element and append and all of that, which is fine for like your original rendering, like your first pass rendering. But it doesn't sort of give you that reactive auto rendering, and I'm still kind of exploring, you know, how to handle that, or just sort of like seeing how far I can get away with this, kind of doing it sort of manually, and maybe then seeing if there's like patterns I can extract, you know, to kind of keep this lightweight. So now what we can basically say is that if we have a role here, and I think I can also just use single quotes here, makes it a little easier. If we have not a role, if we have actually an attribute, ARIA expanded, which is true, then the expand button, and actually, yeah, maybe semantically speaking, we can style it however we want, but just for like better accessibility support and so forth, let's actually just make these buttons So the expand one, we say display none, and then the inverse. If this is false, then collapse is display none. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, it's showing both of them. Do they work? They do work. So just need to tweak our CSS a little bit. So yeah, aria expanded. Does it matter? Is it the quotes? Actually, is it this? Does it not re-render the styles? Yeah, tree, area expand, true, expand. Okay. Okay, so it works here, but it doesn't work here. What's the difference? So we have a tree item with an expand and a collapse, and aria expanded true. Tree item. This one's hidden now because tree item area false. Maybe we should also be a bit more explicit here. Oh yeah, because this is on the tree item itself. Wait, do I support this? Does this work? Does it work at all now? How are we gonna do? Oh wait, okay, wait. So this is okay. Our tree, right? This is our top level thing. Ooh. Okay, I mean, first of all, actually, I want this. Let's actually make this a direct child, just to scope this a little bit more conservatively. Yeah, but that's the problem, right? This expects, yeah, no, I see exactly what's happening. Okay, I mean, kind of have this escape hatch so we can declare global styles, because our styled macro is not really powerful enough right now to handle this. So yeah, the problem is that if I declare this here, then that rule is going to apply to children of this component itself, and like since this is the top level thing in this component, it's not a child of itself, it is itself, and I should, like, thing is that like in the CSS there's going to be a space here which I don't want. If we declare it there, we probably do need to restart this. Luckily that's very fast. It's not like closure where that takes forever. Okay, right, so we have an expand collapse now. Again, you know, we'll make this nicer later. Now I want to actually have an on-click handler here, right? And I have the data, which is basically the value itself. And let's here add an onClick to this config, and then say here, doesn't really matter where they click on because it's already sort of in disclosure, the right data. We're gonna call onClick, and we're gonna give it the data itself and the path to that data. We don't really need this yet. It's just sort of like, I've been keeping track of this path because I thought like in this tree component might be interesting in callbacks to like get back like where in the tree you are. Luckily in JavaScript we can also just like ignore the second argument when we actually write the function. So let's go back to our front end and add on module tree click. And let's maybe also make that a def method dispatching on the, so yeah, this is the data and the path. We display on the dispatch on the type of the data, so we can kind of, actually we made this a protocol. Let's just add it to this protocol on click. This path, and then we actually don't need this. We just say on click. And right now I am particularly interested in the modules. On click this data path. Yeah, okay, it does actually do, oh yeah, this is the data, right? This path. And this. So yeah, now it rendered the second one here. And if I click on a module, Eureka. And over here, we have the module. In particular, I mean, it just shows it as its fully qualified name, but this should be a module instance exactly. And if we look at module, we have a bunch of stuff here. Now, in particular, we should, in general, also have the location of the module. So let's have a look at that location. Exactly, and so we can fetch that. Of course, that's not going to mean that like we're refetching this, even though Piglet fetched this earlier to like compile it and load it. I think later on we want to get some kind of automatic caching in there so we don't load stuff twice like that. But for now, that's fine. So let's do a JS fetch and await that. Get a JS response, and then I think we can just do .text. Yeah, and if we await that, oh no, .text await. Okay, and here we have the contents of our module. So as a first version, let's here say, of course this is too simplistic. We want to actually, like, if people edit these and come back to them, we want to like preserve their changes and so forth. Let's so yeah, this is that HTML text area DOM element, where we have registered a handler here for this control enter. So we should be able to say set, and I think I actually need inner HTML here and not inner text on the code area. this thing. Syntax error. Oh, this might be a compiler issue. Because this looks good to me. Let's see if we can stick this in a function. It's probably a Piglet bug. Fetch module text module. We need to make this an async function. And then defn set code contents. This. Is that better? Still doesn't like it. Oh, actually it might be, do we need to declare this as async? Right. Okay, I just didn't like that. I guess alternatively, if we don't want to declare this async, you know, we basically manually use the promise that comes out of this, right? So yeah, this does kind of work as expected or as intended, in the sense that that is an error. We just need much better error messages, which of course is always a pain point. But yeah, let's see if we click on this, what happens. Okay, tries to load undefined. What's the matter with my fetch? Oh, it uses this here. It should be module. We reload this. That's okay. So we should be able to see our own code. Is this doing anything? It loaded front end. And it's loading tree widget. Set code contents. Hello. Ooh, what's the matter here? HTML text area element. Ooh. Or is it like value that we need to set? Oh, it is value. Okay, right, value. Okay. Tree widget. Boom! Nice. And now we can actually change the front end from the front end, which is fun. We can also explore some of the Piglet built-in stuff, like the main namespace. So you see it like starts with some low-level stuff because we actually don't have a defn in the beginning. So we need to implement syntax quote, and then based on that we get def macro, and then once we have def macro we can do defn, and so forth. We can do lazy seek. Once we have lazy seek we can do concat. So it's just kind of fun, you know, language bootstrapping. Oh yeah, here you see that like there's a number of constructs in Piglet that like treat async stuff first class. So one example is reduce. If you reduce over something and the function that you pass to reduce is an async function, it's gonna automatically do the awaiting and you know the promise chaining and give you a promise back. Things like that. Okay, so this is cool. This is fun. Yeah, we got some flexbox issues here. Also, yeah, next thing I'm kind of curious about. Okay, so here we have our actual vars. And I think we should be able to like get location information directly on the var. So let's do this. Actually, and I don't know if I necessarily need to like re-eval the insert. Okay, this is still nil, whereas if I do it here, oh no, also still nil. Oh, I think I know why that is. I think we need to improve our tree component because we have two branches here for whether or not it's a leaf. So it's actually do on click handler. So that we can here say directly on click handler. So let's go to a var. Got var. Cool. And if we look at the metadata of that var, we should get a line. Now, I don't know if we get lines also for like some of the built-in stuff. I feel like there might be some issues there, but actually let's have a look here. If we add line information, you know, directly to this label so we can kind of see what that looks like. Yeah, I'm gonna have to render. Oh, okay, interesting. Everything's line 6. It's not gonna help us much. So I kind of wanted to like basically make these navigate directly to these vars, but we'll have to improve our location tracking for that. Really curious. I don't know why it's 6 everywhere. Okay, let's forget about that for now. Let's see if, okay, so the other thing, let's just kind of go one thing at a time, right? The other thing that I don't like here is that like now, this is basically a flex box, right? And they all have like flex grow 1, so that they take the entire width. But that also means that like this one becomes way bigger than the other ones, and I don't really like that. If anything, I think this one should be smaller. Let's maybe just set a max width on this first pane. So I think I have that in markup namespace. Yeah, module browser max width, and I guess I can use EW units. No, what is it? Or because EV is a thing, right? CSS unit viewport width. Oh, I bet it's WV that I'm looking for. VW, that's what I'm looking for. Yes. Let's say 25 VW. Don't really want this to take more than a quarter of the screen. Okay. Noise. So okay, let's. Still so many things here that need to happen. Let's start with the low-hanging fruit of just kind of making this all look a little bit nicer. So if I evaluate this namespace, oh yeah. Yeah, and I think all of them, so also the output pane should probably take no more than maybe like 40, and maybe same with the code pane. Just restarting because it's the easiest here in this case. So, okay, if we evaluate all this, yeah, that's kind of cool. So you see it like evaluate each defen and then get a var back. Now these here, so yeah, okay, first I want to make this all actually just look a little bit nicer because this is already, you know, somewhat useful. You can evaluate code. Right now it doesn't really need much of a backend, but the reason that it has a backend is that I want basically like when people land here, the idea is that it just immediately redirects you to like a UUID slugged version, and that then all your changes automatically get sent to the backend and saved, so that you can always just like, so it kind of worked like a you know, an Etherpad or something. You can always come back to it. Your code's there. You can type some stuff in. And save the live thing with someone else. I guess then from there you probably want to get like try to have like multiplayer, which is another whole can of worms. You know, we're just kind of doing this one thing at a time. But what I want to do right now is actually get a nice monospace font, and let's see. Yeah, so I've been using this EOSFK fix the last couple of years. And it's kind of nice. And there's this Google font downloader thing. Because yeah, it's an open source font, but oh, Google font doesn't even have it. Okay, well that's fine. Then we just get it from, I guess, EOSFK itself. EOSFK open source font, download fonts. It's gonna take a little bit of setup. And there's like 100 variants of this, so let's see if we can just use the same one that I've been using, which I think is SS14. How many SS14s are there? I guess this is the regular, and then there's fixed, and then there's term. I'm using fixed, so let's just go with that. Let's see what's in there. What was it? Package. Woof. Sure. How did I organize this for this other font? Oh, it's all just in one directory. I guess it's fine. Yeah, but TTF's not gonna cut it. We want WOFs. EOSFK web font. Deprecated. Please use EOSFK web fonts. Okay, how to use? Add link to get the CS file. Okay, that's more useful. But I don't want to rely on someone else's CDN. I just want this like in my project. Oh. This is where the font downloader thing would be nice. And browsers are smart enough to not download all of these when you're only using one or two of them, right? So we put this in here, and then, yeah, let's actually see if we can use Piglet to help us a little bit here. Was it fonts left guy, yeah. So should be able to slurp that. Should we not? Huh. So what's the matter? It looks like it slurped it just fine. Okay, yeah, there's our text. Okay, I think our PDP server got into a bad state. Can I do an reseek on URL open parentheses not close parentheses plus? Okay, yeah. And then maybe, oh yeah, so these are like this, yeah, and I guess they're all single quotes, so let's get those quotes in, and then put a regex group around here, and then we should be able to say map second. Yeah, cool. And now what's the base URL I need here? So if we're here, I guess this starts here. Yeah. So we do this, then we should here, yeah, have all of this. Actually, from Piglet string. String join okay. So public fonts. Let's put this in a folder. Okay. Let that do its magic for a second, and then meanwhile here we are gonna just replace WOF2 with ESFK slash, and then also TTF with ESFK slash. Nice. In our backend, we wait, where did I declare? Oh yeah, right. Here's wait, where's Libre Franklin? Oh, I have. Okay, I guess I'm not actually loading this font file yet. Forget what the ideal order is. Style. No, it's link rel style sheet href fonts libre franklin.css and esfk.css, and then default family mono is actually, do we have fixed? Oh, we don't even have fixed. But I guess the whole thing is a monospace font, right? I guess it's just called ESFK Web. Okay, let's just call this ESFK Web. Defaults to a monospace. And then we want to use that for text area pre and code from family mono. Okay, let's see what happens. Run. Okay, that looks different, I think. Fonts used on this page, ESFK Web. Nice. All fonts on page, ESFK Web, and Libre Franklin loaded from there too. Awesome. Fantastic. Very cute. And then for output, actually, here in front end, the easiest thing is if we, let's call this eval string. Just eval string is fine. That, and then here, instead of just being a P, let's make that a, wait, is it pre-code or code pre? Pre-code. Code for inload code that can wrap, and pre-code for block codes that must not wrap. Yeah. So, pre redefine this function and then try this again. All right. Oh, and we even get the, I'm not really a fan of these fancy programming ligatures, but okay. Now, okay, there's a couple things here, like obviously we want some colors on this. And the big thing is that this tree needs to become more interactive in the sense that, like, if I say that I define a new module here, right? Module, my new module, def and my first var, we load that. It's not showing up here, so this whole thing needs to become a bit more reactive. We can re-render this though, and it should be here, I guess, in playground, my new module. Boom. And but yeah, if I try to do this now, then it's not going to be able to load it, but it should have it in memory, etc. So, but I think this is enough for one session. For the colors, a fun thing. I mean, I can look in, you know, like Code Mirror or like, you know, the fancy editors, but actually I've done a really neat hack in the past. I mean, this wasn't my idea, but basically what you do is, you know, you use a basic highlighter library like highlight.js. You know, and I'm sure we can like use some Lisp or Clojure grammar for this. I mean, we have a tree-sitter grammar for Piglet. Would be cool to base it on that as well, but like this should be like an easy drop-in thing, so we can get basic colorization of code, and then basically you stick a div behind your text area that you keep in sync with the contents of the text area. You make the contents of the text area transparent, except for the caret, this cursor thing. And you show, you know, you basically overlay it over the colorized text. So maybe if I do another recording, I'll start looking into stuff like that. And obviously we need to start saving stuff to the backend so you can actually share snippets. Then it's going to become much more fun, because then you can actually, you know, build little demo applications in here and share them. In lots of places this can go. You know, I just wanted to get something going. So I hope this was fun. I hope this was interesting. Leave a comment, get in touch. You can find me on Mastodon on the TootCat server as @Plexus. That's probably the best way to find me online right now. But feel free to also just interact on the GitHub repos. We love to hear from you folks. So that's it for me. Thanks a lot.